Hello, everyone, and welcome to HP Critical, a podcast where my friends and I talk all things gaming. And today I am here with Christy and Marissa, and we're going to be talking all about the Nintendo Switch Lite. First, I'm going to go over a little bit of what exactly the Switch Lite is, and then we're going to get our opinions on it and see what we think about it, whether it's viable, whether it's something that we should be looking into, or whether it's just, another useless console iteration.
How dare you?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
I was going to say, I was like, wow.
I don't know. Look, I do think that we've had some useless console iterations. Whatever. Okay. Anyway. So, the Nintendo Switch Lite. First of all, the Switch Lite is, I think the most exciting thing for me, which I know is just me being ridiculously ridiculous, is that it comes in 3 different colors, which is, what are they called? Yellow, gray, and I forgot what they called the blue. Did they call it?
Turquoise.
Turquoise, there we go. Yellow, gray, and turquoise. So the Nintendo Switch Lite is an exclusively handheld experience. It is a Switch that is only handheld, meaning that it does not at all connect to your television set. We know that it doesn't connect to the TV. We know that it does not have separate Joy-Cons. The Joy-Cons are built into the Switch this time, or rather the controllers are built into the Switch this time, and they are not the exact same as the Joy-Cons that we have on the original Nintendo Switch. They don't have the HD Rumble feature because they're connected to the console, and the IR motion controls are also not there. So that means, for everyone that doesn't know, games such as 1-2 Switch that require you to use the IR motion controls, you'll be unable to play them on the Nintendo Switch Lite without purchasing a separate set of Joy-Cons. You can play all Nintendo Switch games that are handheld supported on the Nintendo Switch Lite. Once again, all Nintendo Switch games that support handheld. That means that not every game is going to be able to be played. The Switch Lite is going to be released September 20th, 2019. The biggest point of all of this is that it's going to be $199.99 MSRP. So $200, which is going to be $100 cheaper than the original Nintendo Switch. The screen resolution is going to remain at 720p. Which is the same as the Nintendo Switch. So we don't have any upgraded resolution. There are no upgraded internals. I know there were lots of rumors about the next iteration having a better screen, better internals. That is all not true. According to Nintendo, there's no performance difference between the two models. The screen is a 5.5-inch display, which comparatively, the regular Nintendo Switch has a 6.2 touchscreen. This one is a 5.5 touchscreen. There was an article over at IGN, and I think the closest comparison that we got to the screen size is a PS Vita.
Long live the Vita.
Long live the Vita. I am still a Vita supporter. The Switch is lighter than the Switch Lite is obviously lighter than the Nintendo Switch, but not by much. It is 0.61 pounds as opposed to the 0.88 pounds of the Switch, so you don't lose that much weight off of it. There is a longer battery life, although that's also not that great. The original Switch has an approximate battery life of 2.5 to 6.5 hours, whereas the Switch Lite has 3 to 7. So you're getting about 0.5 hours of extra battery time on each iteration of you playing. So it's really not that much. Like I mentioned, game compatibility, if there is a handheld mode icon on the game that you're purchasing, that means that you can play that game on the Nintendo Switch Lite. So just as a review, the Nintendo Switch Lite does not have a TV mode. It does not have a tabletop mode because you don't have Joy-Cons to disconnect to play in tabletop mode. It does not come with Joy-Con controllers. It does not have HD Rumble included, and it does not have IR motion controls. The screen resolution is exactly the same as the original Switch. It does not come with any updates inside of it. It has the same performance as the original Nintendo Switch. That is a lot of stuff to lose for $100. So before I shit on the Nintendo Switch Lite, because that's 100%
for
my
Switch
plan.
Lite, what did it ever do to you?
It's ridiculous. I have lots of problems with it, but I will say I am enticed because I do love the colors, and I really do actually just want to buy the Pokemon Sword and Shield one because it's just really, really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
It
is definitely one of the selling points. It's just how adorable the console is. I think they're just super cute. So that's my positive of this. But I guess I'll start with you, Christy. What do you think about the Switch Lite? Because I know that you and I have very differing opinions on this. So tell me what you think about it.
I mean, it's great for people who they don't want to spend, what was it, $300 for a Switch, but also for people who they travel a lot. I know for me personally, I am possibly, if there's a good deal on the Switch Lite, I might just buy one just because whenever I go traveling, I hate carrying my Switch. I baby my Switch. I legit baby my Switch so much to the point that like if I'm traveling with it and I'm at the airport, before I even play it, I will make sure to sanitize my hand. Nobody else can touch it.
Oh my gosh.
I have a screen cleaner with me.
You're very serious.
It is my baby. I promise. And then so if I were to get a Switch Lite, I could be a bit, I don't have to baby it as much. I would still baby it, but it seems like it's a bit sturdier because the Joy-Cons are connected to the screen, but also it's a lot smaller, and so it will save me a lot of extra room.
I mean, is it?
It's not that much smaller,
yeah.
but still.
Okay.
But still.
So one of the
just
things,
a tiny bit.
one of the things that bothers me about it is that I do think that the Nintendo Switch, I think that the original Nintendo Switch has a good screen size. I cannot fathom playing games on an even smaller screen than the one we already have. Like, I already think that for some games, the Switch handheld is already too small. Making it smaller,
for Smash Bros.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That is one of the examples I was going to bring up. Making it even smaller. Oh my god, I can't. I already
That would
can't
be a
see
nightmare.
like this. Is like,
Hyrule Castle, 8-player.
Exactly. And that's the other thing that I have to complain about. But before I go into my complaints, Marissa, what do you think of the Switch Lite?
So I feel like I'm definitely at a middle ground. It's definitely not a console that I think I would pick up. But I can see the appeal to it. You know, it is a little bit more put together in the sense of you're not worried about those Joy-Cons coming loose or getting hurt, you know, while you're traveling, or, you know, if you're handing this off to someone who's a little bit younger and are prone to either dropping the Joy-Cons or, you know, maybe they tried to shove it back into the Switch wrong, you're not really having to worry about that anymore. And honestly, I kind of see it as a replacement. I realize a lot of people will probably say no, but almost to like the 3DS, you know, especially, yeah, I think ultimately it will be. But especially with just it releasing for Pokemon, you know, of course it has its beautiful Pokemon themed skin that's going to be on it. But also one of the things that they were really talking about was that they wanted Pokemon Sword and Shield to have a very powerful, a very fun handheld mode. And so I think that it really will shine with games like that are intended to be in handheld. I know I personally love playing games in handheld, but there are a couple titles that I couldn't see not being able to do TV mode. Switch, I mean, it's not Switch. Smash, I feel like I kind of go back and forth between handheld and TV because I enjoy it both ways. You know, it's nice to be able to just kind of like play it, you know, on the go or not having to hook up everything, you know, especially if you are comfortable playing with the Joy-Cons, you know, but it's nice to have that option to plug it into a TV and to have multiple people playing off of it, you know, everyone bringing over their Joy-Cons, everyone bringing over their controllers. You're going to lose that. And especially, I don't know how Pro Controller support is going to work on this. Will it work at all?
About that.
You know, so I think that limits the kind of people who will purchase it if they are interested in games like Smash or games that are enhanced by having a Pro Controller. Mm-hmm. I know that one of the games that I play where having a smaller screen just sounds nightmarish is Smite. It already is really, really, really hard to see and kind of get a feel for depth perception in that game when it is in handheld mode. So even though I could play it on a Switch Lite, I don't think I would ever really want to, which becomes an issue.
Do you guys remember during E3 when they were showing off Resident Evil 5?
Yeah, I didn't understand how people could be playing it in like co-op on such a small screen.
They had the two separate small co-op screens on one Switch?
Yeah.
How would you even on a Switch Lite do that? Like, that is almost completely impossible. And your explanation of Smite reminded me of that, but continue.
Yeah, and it's just there are some games that I really don't think will will play well to it. I know that, of course, they've already kind of brought up that, hey, if you can't play a game in handheld mode, one of the ones that we were talking about right before we started was Mario Party. You know, you need to either be in TV mode or tabletop mode. I don't really know what that one's called.
It's called tabletop mode. TV mode and tabletop
mode. You know, you're not going to be able to play Mario Party, which seems crazy that there's going to even be some of the Nintendo AAA games that you're not going to be able to play on the Switch Lite. So I definitely feel like I sit in the middle. I can see where for some people this might be a really good alternative if you are on the go a lot, if you are looking to save a little bit of money but still want to get into owning a Switch. You know, I could see that maybe this is a little bit more sensible for if you are buying it for someone who's younger. One of the things that I was thinking is if you are kind of in college and you don't have a lot of money that you can save up because you're spending it on your education and on food and on dorms, you know, that you can still have a Switch. You can take it with you on the go while you're commuting, while you're, you know, bored during your breaks between classes, while you're in the library. You know, I could see where there's definitely going to be a demographic for it. I'm not in that demographic and I don't want to lose TV mode, but I don't feel like it's necessarily a useless iteration. I think it'll definitely have its audience. It's just not me. And apparently well.
I think going back with what Marissa was saying, I think it would be really great for commuters because I know that when I was working in a different city for a while, I was commuting into downtown, and so I would always be taking my 3DS with me, playing it on the bus, trying to finish up a couple maps and Fire Emblem Fates, and it was great. But like when I got my Switch, I always felt bad taking it with me just because I don't know. I spent $300 on the Switch, and if I were to lose it, I would be heartbroken. But spending $200 for a Switch Lite, if I were to lose it, it wouldn't feel as bad. Yeah. I mean, it's still terrible, but it's not as bad.
So I get that. Let me start by saying I completely understand and agree a little bit with what you're saying, Christy. Just a little bit. I
just a little.
Just a little bit. I also should not have said it's useless because I don't think it's useless. I do agree that there is definitely a demographic for this. I just find it really hard to find who that demographic is. And in my head, I just think everyone should just save up the extra $100 and go for the regular Nintendo Switch because, you know, I've heard the argument of, I'll get this for my kids. Yeah, that works to me, I think, if you have one kid. If you have two kids, at that point, you've just spent $400 on two different Switch Lites when you could have spent $300 on one Nintendo Switch, and they can each get a Joy-Con and play together on the same Switch. That also means that now every game that you purchase for one child, you have to buy twice because they can't play together on the same screen because the Nintendo Switch Lite is handheld mode only. It ends up being way more money if you have more than one child. In my head, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure, just to me, the way that this seems to work is that every person is going to have every copy of every game, which is great for Nintendo because you're going to make a lot of money. But if I want to go, like if I'm in college and I want to play Smash and I have my Switch with me, I can give someone another Joy-Con, or I can pull out the Pro Controller and give them my two Joy-Cons and we can play together on my Switch. I don't get that option if I'm doing that on the Switch Lite. Now everyone has to have their own copy of this game. Same thing with big games like Mario Kart 8 or, you know, Splatoon 2. Well, not Splatoon 2 because it's not multiplayer, but like Mario Kart 8 or any of the other Mario or AAA Nintendo games that you can play multiplayer. Now everyone has to have their own copy of that title. On my birthday, I had a Smash tournament, and we all just played on my TV, and I had a bunch of Joy-Cons. Everybody brought their Pro Controllers. We can't do that together if I had a Switch Lite. Like, everyone, each of us would all have to bring 8 Switch Lites together and hope that they all connected well enough for us to be able to play a single 8-player match together. Like, it doesn't make sense. I hate that they call it a Switch Lite because it's not even a Switch. The whole purpose of the Switch is to be able to switch between handheld and TV mode. This has no TV mode. It is not a Switch. I understand the naming situation, but it annoys me that it's called the Switch because it can't even switch. It doesn't make any sense to me.
So would you have preferred it to be called a 1DS?
I mean, no. but like... anything else. I don't know. And I also make the comparison of it's basically just a really small Wii U gamepad. Did you guys have the Wii U?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, but I definitely know about it.
It's legit a Wii U gamepad slash 3DS 3DS.
So they could have called it a Switch gamepad.
I mean, even no, because it still has Switch in it. No. Nintendo gamepad. Obviously, you have to call it a Switch because then, you have Nintendo Switch games and people are going to be looking for Switch games. But that's the other thing. You can't even play everything on this console. Like, you're losing out on so much for $100. It doesn't make any sense to me. You get a smaller screen. You barely get, 30 minutes more of battery time. Yeah, it's smaller, and you don't have to... I will say it's nice to not have to worry about Joy-Cons because I know that people have had, including me, have had issues with Joy-Cons and the Switch the way that it is. But why? Why would you just not save an extra $100 and then have the ability to have handheld mode, to have tabletop mode? The whole point of the Switch and every commercial that we see is playing together with friends. Mm-hmm. The Switch Lite kind of takes two parts of that away. It takes the tabletop mode away, and it takes the TV mode away. Two ways that people are going to end up playing together. And it becomes, and yes, it is great as a handheld console. I think there are a lot of people who just want handheld experience, right? That's mm-hmm. wonderful. And I guess that's who this is for. You save $100, you get your handheld experience. But then I would have even felt better about it if we did have some form of, updated internals on the Switch Lite for that price. If it was, if it were, I don't know, if it's on sale at some point, then sure, I might grab it. If it was $50 cheaper, I probably would be complaining less. But $200, all I'm saying is $200 to lose so many features that an additional $100 would get me. And then the fact that if you do want to play these games, you're going to end up having to go spend, how much are Joy-Cons? $80, right?
Yeah, I think so, right?
End up having to spend $80 on top of the $200 just to get Joy-Cons to play other games with someone else. You've now spent $280 for 20 more bucks in tax. You can just get a regular Switch, and then you'll have tabletop mode and TV mode, HD Rumble, IR motion controls, a bigger screen, sure, a less better battery life, but the screen resolution is the same. There's nothing that I can think of that would make it worth saving the $100 unless you just don't have the $100. Even, and like I said, even the whole, commuting or, playing in college. I don't see that anyone in college should get unless you don't have friends. Which, I didn't have many friends. That's totally fine. That sounds horrible. But, so what I mean is, if you're in college, it's a very communal type of situation. Everybody's going to want to play together. And I get it. Yes, it's okay to have a Switch Lite and a Nintendo Switch. I do agree that college is probably a great place. But then you end up still missing out on, things like tabletop mode or TV mode. Mm-hmm. There's the whole Mario Party game where you have to put the two Switches together to create the little tunnels or whatever, or the way that they have can I even do that on the Switch Lite? I don't know.
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
Oh no. But the Pokemon one is really pretty.
I just think that the Switch Lite, it's more for people who are into the JRPGs. They're trying to target the demographic who they're not into the party games, but they're more into the JRPGs, the one player experience type games. That's what I feel that they're targeting it towards.
And you should be able to play those on your TV. When you're at home, you should have that option.
Yeah.
But you don't need it. No, I agree with you. You don't need the option. I have been playing all the Final Fantasies on Switch. I barely play them on TV, just because they look better on handheld. But I don't want to play them any smaller. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Someone else tell me why I should buy this.
I mean, I guess it's more of it depends on your budget. It's at an entry price point where people looking at the price, they're do I want to spend $299 for a Switch, or do I want to spend $199 for a Switch Lite? Just without thinking, a lot of people, they will look at the Switch Lite and say, sure, I'm going to spend $189 on the Switch Lite and be A-okay with it.
I think that if we got a little bit more, like Jarrell said, that maybe this is something that I would consider a little bit more than I, would now. One of the problems that I have with the Switch is memory. I feel like even if we lose a little bit of that screen resolution, I was kind of thinking it in comparison to my phone. If I watch things that are 720 on my phone, I feel like they still look really, really good. So it's not that I'm necessarily worried about it's a smaller screen and the resolution stays the same. We don't get any improvements with that. If they would have improved the memory along with the battery life, even though, it's only about a 30-minute jump, that is not a significant change in battery to the point where I would even probably advertise it. But if they would have changed just the memory itself, I think then sure, I would totally be interested in knowing that I could have a couple of my handheld games that I love the most ready to go. There is a couple places that I do travel to quite often, and I am always really worried about taking my Switch with me because I'm worried that, oh my gosh, what if I drop the backpack that it's in? Yes. I have to pack up all the components for it because I like to take the dock. I like to take the HDMI and the power cord and everything. So it starts to take up a little bit more room when you're taking all of it with you and not just your Switch in handheld. To be able to just kind of like have it easily on the go. I don't really have to worry about it. I can get it a nice little case that it stays in, everything like that, plus additional memory. And I just know that I'm having my few handheld games, when Pokemon comes out, absolutely. I would have Smash on it probably, because I'm still just playing it with myself, basically. I'd have some of the games that I know would work best on it and I could have it with me. But at the same time, I wouldn't sacrifice, something like my Switch over it necessarily. It's just that I do see where it would be more convenient to have it. But I feel like right now in its current state, it's just not, kind of like Gerald said, I don't see saving that $100 to buy a Switch Lite because I would still prefer to just have the Switch over it and be able to choose handheld or TV or tabletop and, to know that I get to use all of the library of Switch games and not just a portion of them that work for this specific console.
Right.
I honestly think the biggest problem is that you just lose too much. Like, we are losing way too much for $100. And Marissa, in what situation are you taking all of your Nintendo Switch, like that, the dock and everything with you, that you couldn't just take the Switch for?
Wait.
Well, because so you were saying that when you take your Switch, you pack up.
As opposed to just being like the Lite.
No. Because you were just saying that whenever you take a Switch, you take the dock, you take all the cords, etc. Like, why can't you just take what is the situation that requires you to take the entire dock and everything with you?
So my family has a property and we will stay there for, however long at a time. And it's a little bit more than just me wanting to have it in handheld. I like to have the option of having it in TV mode while I'm there, because I have access to a TV and I can play things either with my mom or with anyone else who's there. So it gives me the option to be able to still have everything hooked up to my TV as opposed to I'm just taking it in handheld without any of the additional.
So then you would take it anyway. Like, even if you had a Switch Lite, you would still end up taking your Nintendo Switch for the option of playing on TV, right?
I think because my concern is always like the cords and everything. Like, I'm worried about anything happening to the HDMI. I'm worried about anything happening to the power cable. I'm worried about, oh gosh, what if, one of the Joy-Cons comes loose or something happens to it? I could still see wanting to take just the handheld one up there just so I know that everything's safe. I'm not quite as worried because it's not like a bunch of stuff can fall off, or because I am packing everything all at once, nothing's getting bent or hurt or, anything like that. It would just be the Switch itself. I know I could do that, but I don't want to.
Okay, because that's my whole confusion is that you literally can just take the Switch as it is.
I know, but I don't want to.
Granted, I'm the same thing like Marissa. Like, whenever I go traveling somewhere, whenever I go on my trips and on the plane, with my Switch, I always, for some odd reason, I always take the power cable with it, even though I know that I have a battery pack for my Switch. I always just need that extra security.
But then you have to take your Nintendo Switch Lite power cable with you anyway. Like, I'm not getting it. Like, I mean, I understand what you guys are saying. I'm just
we're just odd.
No. I get it. Like, it's
we would just have our quirks, and this is our quirk.
It's a less expensive, like, flimsy. I don't want to say flimsier, but like, hardier, as I guess the word. It's a less expensive, hardier version of your home console that is easier to take with you. But not by much. It's almost.
I mean, not by much. But
yeah.
It's like what I said. If they were to have a great deal on it, where I think last year they had like buy a Nintendo Switch, and then you can pick a selection of like one out of the 4 games, then possibly I may think about getting it. But other than that, I'm not going to get it at launch just because.
Because I hope one of the 4 games is one that you can actually play. I'm just being a hater. I'm sorry. I'm just being a hater.
No, I think that definitely brings up a good point. I think that if this did drop the price point down further, then yeah, it would really be a no-brainer to why not? Why not have
totally
this additional Switch?
Yep.
Yeah. But I think that it's still, you're paying $200, and like you said, you are losing a significant amount when it comes to the different features that you can't use any longer, to certain games that you can't play any longer on it.
To use these features, you're still going to have to pay $80 for a set of Joy-Cons, which brings it to the price of a Switch.
Unless they don't want the games.
That's true. And like you said, if it's a JRPG handheld console, I mean, your games are going to be there. And
because I know that one of my coworkers, she was thinking about getting a Nintendo Switch for her kids, like a separate Nintendo Switch for each of her kids, because they both like to play like the one-player games like Super Mario and Zelda. Mm-hmm. And then when I showed her that, hey, by the way, they just announced this. This is your option. Here are like the pros and cons. And after I told her the pros and cons, she still, like, without a doubt said she wants a Switch Lite just because she's like, it's just easier. They don't have to fight over the TV. They each have their own personal console. I don't have to hear. She's like, I don't need to hear one of my broke best friends saying, "Mommy, she's not letting me play on her console." Yeah. She's like, it just saves so much of a headache for her.
And I agree with that. Like, I get that, and I do agree with that that situation.
I just think that if you don't have a Switch, there's really not a reason why you need a Switch Lite right now, unless the price dropped.
Yeah, I see. I actually agree with that. And the only way that I would accept this $200 price point, and I do think it's not a lot of money, because this is the price of the 3DS. I do think it's not a lot of money. I'm not saying that it costs too much. Like, I don't want people to think I'm saying it costs too much. I do not think it costs too much. I think it costs what it should cost. I think that we lose too much for the amount that it costs. I think it's way too close to the original Switch, and we lose way too much of the original Switch's functionality for it to be the price that it is. That's my issue. And the other thing, I would 100%, I would go out and buy one of these and pay $200 for it if the handheld mode were better on it. The fact that it is the exact same as the Switch I already have, it baffles. Like, what's the point of me if I already have a Switch? There's nothing that is enticing me to go get a Switch Lite. If you're telling me that I get 1080p on my Switch Lite and it's handheld, and like they've directed everything on this Switch Lite into making handheld the best version of it possible, then oh my god, yes, I'm gonna get the best version of the new Pokemon game on the Switch Lite, and I know that I'm gonna be playing Pokemon handheld almost all of the time because I'm probably not gonna plug it up to the TV because it's not one of those big party games. Yes. Hell yes, I'm going to go out and spend $200 on one of these to get 1080p Pokemon Sword and Shield, or 1080p Breath of the Wild 2 with better internal, so it runs faster, it loads faster, it looks better. Yes, I'm going to spend $200 on it because I do want that, Animal Crossing. No, I want Animal Crossing on my TV. That's a lie. But Three Houses. Like, I want that on my TV too. Whatever. Like, Pokemon is the only one I can think of right now. If you're telling me that I get the best version of Pokemon for $200, then yes, I would go buy a second Switch just to take on the go for games like Pokemon. And I would leave my original Switch docked unless, I'm going to a friend's house and I know that we're going to go, play something, and I have 2 Joy-Cons I can just bring with me, or, I can just grab the Switch and dock it at their house or something. Then I'm going to take my original Switch as an on-the-go version. But because this is the exact same thing with a smaller screen, it gives me absolutely no reason to go out and make that purchase. Why? Like,
I
there's
think they're
nothing,
just trying
there's
to
nothing
get
good
the
about it.
people who do not have a Switch, who are still with their 3DS and 2DS. I think they're trying to see if those people will jump on board with the Switch Lite.
Yeah. And they will. And I think, and that's
Just
why I said I shouldn't
Pokemon's
call it
coming
useless.
out.
Yeah, that's why I said I shouldn't
Yeah.
call it useless, because definitely, like, a bunch of people are already like, yo, this is great. And when I saw the colors, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, oh my god, I want one. It's so cute.
I know, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh my goodness, I want the blue. What if they make a pretty of the pink berry color back with the Game Boy color? I would get it.
Oh my god,
immediately.
purple, like, give me the gamut of color, coral, give me all the iPhone colors. Like, I want all of them. Just give me all, like, give me colors. I am a color fiend. I have a collection of Joy-Cons because I want to switch colors. Like, yes, I think it's a step in the right direction. I do agree. I do think that it's gonna bring in a lot of people who don't necessarily need the TV mode. I just think it loses the whole... I guess I should say I'm disappointed, because you lose the entire Switch gimmick. Like, even if there was a way to just... maybe we don't need a dock. Maybe, you just are able to plug in something where you can just connect it to the TV or so. I don't know. Something. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Anything more than a Wii U gamepad turned 3DS that plays Switch games. I don't know. But final thoughts, guys. So how are you feeling about it? Is this something for you? Is this something that you would buy? Is this something you'd recommend?
I'm so scared for the upcoming Animal Crossing possibility, the Animal Crossing variation for the Switch Lite.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It might be
kind of
beautiful.
scared.
now you're telling me I gotta go buy one. Great.
It may be adorable.
Great. Thank you.
And
Now
I won't be able to.
Mm-hmm. Great. Nice job, Nintendo. They're about to take $200 from me because I just want pretty things. And you know what? I just talked all this shit, and I am the same person who bought an original Switch and then went out and bought the Eevee and Pikachu version because I thought it was cute. So I am obviously a sucker who's gonna go buy one of these. So I should not be talking shit. I am that person. Wow. What about you, Marissa? Any last thoughts about the Switch Lite? Is it for you? Is it something you'd look at down the road? Would you recommend it?
After talking about it, the features that it loses, that there is an increase either in processing power and memory, it's definitely not something that I would consider getting. Even though I do like the idea of it being solely handheld, that's the way that I play the majority of my games on my Switch. I can't lose the option to plug it into my TV because it's still fun. And, there's a lot of games that I do really enjoy playing in TV mode. So it's not really something that I would see spending the money on. I would recommend it for someone who I knew either was on the fence or was looking for something, along a 3DS type of line where they did truly just want handheld, where I knew they were playing a lot of narrative single player games. And so the multiplayer kind of lose out. The couch co-op, the multiplayer, if you're not worried about losing that, I could totally see recommending it to someone. I just know that personally it's not for me at this point. I realize that I'm probably going to have to really, really, really fight the urge to get the beautiful Pokemon one. And I'm sure that there's going to either be a true Switch console come out that has Animal Crossing or a Nintendo Switch Lite version of it. I think that, future games coming out like Animal Crossing might work really, really beautifully on the Lite. But
it'll look exactly the same as it does on the Switch.
I mean, true. I'm just saying. It might be wonderful on the Lite, especially since, a lot of us got into playing Animal Crossing on 3DS and even on their phone.
But it's the same process.
Exactly. So if it's wonderful on the Switch Lite.
I'm just saying.
It's going to be wonderful on both.
No, in the same way that I think that it's going to work really well for Pokemon, even though it's not a different processor, even though it's not a different screen resolution, I think that Pokemon will play really well on it. And I'm saying that Animal Crossing will play really well on it, that you don't feel like you need a TV mode, is what I'm trying to say.
But then the screen is smaller.
Exactly.
I know. Oh my gosh. I'm not caught up on the screen, okay? The screen doesn't bother me.
I know what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's going to look good enough that it's okay to have it on a Switch Lite. But then I'm just saying, but it's gonna look exactly the same on your regular Switch.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it would be something that I would necessarily buy over the Switch, especially now that, I have experienced the Switch and playing things in TV mode and then switching them over to handheld, sometimes doing exactly like they show in the commercial, being like, you know what, I feel like playing this in bed now, so I'm just going to take it with me. Yep. And, so this definitely isn't for me. I can see where it would be for certain, people who really want that handheld experience and don't really mind about it not being TV compatible or connectable. Just, have fun with that if that's your thing, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I'll round out the podcast by saying that I love options. And because of that, I do think it is a great option for exactly what Christy said, buying 2 of these for your 2 kids so that they don't have to worry about switching the Joy-Con sections or whatever, Although I do still think that kind of goes against the whole marketing of I still believe that it goes against the entire marketing of the Switch as a console, especially because we've been pushing this for kids. Like, the actual Switch the way it is has been pushed for kids the way it is. But I do agree that having options is always ideal. Sorry, go ahead, Christy.
Oh, no, I was just wondering. I know that because of the Switch, it was like, oh, yeah, you can switch out players. You can easily take it. So I'm wondering if the Switch Lite marketing would be different just because it's a handheld only.
So far, it's literally been the one trailer that we've seen. Well, the 2, because they're I think 2 different ones, one for UK and one for here, but in North America.
Aren't they the same?
No, I think they're a little different.
Oh, really?
But by very little. I could also be lying. But the marketing has been exactly the same. It's been older people walking around with their Switches. As a matter of fact, when I watched the commercial the first time, I saw the guy and he's playing and he gives his friend the Joy-Con and they play together, and then the other friend just comes over and joins them, and I'm like, I hope that I have friends that are going to let me play on their Switch so I don't have to bring mine. It just didn't make any sense. When I first saw it, I was like, well, this doesn't make any sense. When you can just share it and we can all have the game together, as opposed to now we all have to go buy it separately. Whatever.
True.
The point is, the marketing has been exactly the same. It's been get together with your friends, except for now we all have to buy, separate copies of the same game to play together.
Interesting.
And we all have to, sit around with our Switch Lites. Whatever. Anywho, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this podcast up. Those are our thoughts on the Switch Lite. Please let us know how you guys feel. Leave us comments on Twitter, wherever, HP Critical Gaming. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.